The Runcandel family is a legendary clan of swordsmen that dominates half of the entire world. Its members are blessed from birth with incredibly strong physiques and unmatched talent. To the Runcandels, three virtues mean everything: combat, conquer, and control. They live by the strict law of the jungle, where only the strong survive. Born into this terrifyingly powerful family is Jin Runcandel, the youngest son. When he was just a 1-year-old baby, the family held a special selection ceremony to predict his future. Surrounded by countless weapons, baby Jin reached out and grabbed Barisada, the personal sword of the Patriarch and the ultimate symbol of the Runcandel family. Everyone believed the child was destined for greatness. They thought his future would be filled with endless fame and success. But reality was cruel. As Jin grew up, it became painfully clear that he had absolutely zero talent in swordsmanship. How could someone from the mighty Runcandel family be so terrible with a sword? He quickly became the family's greatest disgrace, earning the title of the worst dunce in their history. Instead of helping him, his older brothers ruthlessly bullied him. While Jin tirelessly practiced outside with a useless wooden sword, his brothers would approach just to mock him. When they caught him studying basic swordsmanship theory from a notebook, they snatched the papers from his hands, laughed in his face, and mercilessly beat him to the ground. They told him that useless people like him did not deserve any chances and violently put him in his place. Despite the daily abuse, Jin refused to give up. He truly believed that if he just worked hard enough, he would eventually earn his family's recognition and be accepted as a true Runcandel. But his dedication meant nothing to them. At the age of 25, Jin was officially stripped of his title and banished from the family forever. The only reason they even spared his life was because they found his pathetic efforts slightly commendable. Cast out and wandering aimlessly, Jin's life took a massive turn when he met a mysterious red-haired woman he called Master. Through her, Jin discovered a shocking truth. He actually did have talent, but it wasn't for the sword. His talent was for magic, the very thing his sword-obsessed family considered a strict taboo. For 3 years, Jin dedicated himself to studying magic. Then, one night, while practicing his mana in a dark room, the shadows around him suddenly came to life. A dark, powerful entity emerged from the shadows and introduced himself as Solderet, the god of shadows. Solderet was captivated by Jin and offered him a powerful contract. Not only would Jin gain the ability to use shadow energy, but the god would also negate any curses placed upon him. Wait, curses? Solderet looked closely at Jin and realized the horrifying truth. Someone holding a deep grudge had placed a terrible curse on Jin when he was just a child. It was a curse known as Bladed Illusion, designed specifically to completely suppress a person's talent for the sword. This entire time, Jin wasn't a failure, he was just cursed. With a simple wave of his hand, Solderet shattered the chains of the curse. He told Jin that no curse would ever harm him again, and now, nothing was stopping him from becoming an extraordinary magic swordsman. Alone in the moonlight, Jin picked up his sword to test his newfound freedom. The moment he swung the blade, everything felt different. The sword felt as light as a feather. The invisible weight that had held him down his entire life was completely gone. Every time he swung, he reached new heights. The worst dunce in the history of the Runcandel family had finally ceased to exist. Tears of joy filled his eyes as he realized his hard work had finally paid off. But his happiness did not last. While Jin was sleeping in his small dwelling, a group of unknown, heavily armored knights attacked. They destroyed the building, bringing the heavy stone walls crashing down on top of him. Buried under the crushing rubble and bleeding to death, Jin used his last breaths to call out for his master and Solderet, but nobody came. He couldn't believe this was how it ended. Why was he given this incredible chance and this new power, only to die in his sleep before he could even use it? His vision faded to black. But then, he opened his eyes. He felt grass beneath his tiny hands. He heard the familiar, comforting voice of his nanny, Gilly, cheering him on. Looking around in utter confusion, he saw giant swords planted in the ground all around him and towering family members watching him from above. He wasn't dead. He had returned to the past. He was back in the body of his 1-year-old self at his original selection ceremony. Standing right in front of him, glowing in the sunlight, was Barasada, the Patriarch's sword. In his previous life, he had chosen this sword completely by chance. But this time, with the memories of his painful past and the knowledge of his true potential burning inside him, baby Jin crawled forward. This time, he reached out and chose the sword intentionally. The crowd of family members erupts into shocked murmurs. "How can this be?" the elders gasp. "The youngest has selected Barasada." An imposing man with a massive fur-lined cloak, Jin's father and the patriarch of the family, turns his back to the stunned crowd. Without a hint of emotion, he declares the selection ceremony over and immediately orders baby Jin to be moved to the Storm Castle. 6 years pass. The Storm Castle stands isolated and intimidating amidst a raging thunderstorm. Inside, a now 7-year-old Jin stretches his small arms, trying to reach a heavy book on a high library shelf. According to Runcandel family rules, children must stay locked away in this remote castle until they are 10 years old. With 3 more years to go, Jin is incredibly bored. Suddenly, a piercing scream echoes through the halls. A terrified maid points to the floor of Jin's room, where a brutally killed bird lies in a pool of blood. Jin simply stares at it, completely unfazed. He knows exactly who did this. His older brothers, the 9-year-old twins Daytona and Haytona, step out from the shadows, giggling menacingly. In his past life, Jin knew they would grow up to become notorious, cold-blooded murderers. But right now, they are just cruel brats who killed an innocent bird just to torment him. They laugh at his silence, telling him not to cry because it would be annoying. They mock him for choosing the Patriarch's sword during the ceremony, only to end up as a quiet little weakling. Haytona leans in close, cupping his ear with a smug grin, asking where his almighty sword is now. But instead of cowering like he used to, Jin's eyes grow incredibly cold. He grabs Haytona's wrist. In a flash, a dark, swirling shadow energy, the power of Solderet, wraps tightly around Jin's fist. He looks his brother dead in the eye, tells him to shut the hell up, and instantly drives a powerful, shadow-infused punch right into Haytona's face. The blow sends the 9-year-old flying across the room. Enraged, Daytona screams, "You dare!" and charges forward. But Jin easily sidesteps the clumsy attack and delivers a brutal strike to Daytona's stomach, knocking him straight to the floor. Jin stands over his groaning brothers, his hand dripping with dark energy. He had put up with their bullying for years in his past life, but he refuses to take it anymore. He warns them that from now on, it would be in their best interest to stay out of his sight. Just then, a guardian knight named Khan bursts into the room, demanding to know what is going on. Quick on his feet, Jin instantly disperses the shadow energy from his hands. He calmly looks at the knight and lies, saying his brothers simply started fighting each other and collapsed. Khan is utterly confused, but seeing the bruised twins, he assumes it's just the fierce blood of the Runcandels showing early. As Khan offers to take the boys to a doctor, Jin stops him. With a chilling, adult-like authority, Jin orders the knight to follow him. Out in the pouring rain, Jin forces his 2 battered brothers to their knees in the mud.
He makes them dig a grave and bury the innocent bird they killed. Khan watches, stunned by the 7-year-old's commanding presence. As they leave the crying twins in the raging storm to reflect on what they've done, Khan realizes something terrifying. During the brief scuffle inside, he had sensed a strange force. It definitely wasn't sword aura. It felt distinctly like mana. Realizing the youngest son might be illegally practicing magic, Khan knows this is no longer a simple scuffle between brothers. He must report this to the Patriarch immediately.
From a high castle window, Jin watches Khan mount a horse and ride off into the storm. He knows exactly where the night is going. Khan isn't just a guardian, he is an observer for his father. But Jin isn't worried. He looks down at the black, wispy shadow energy dancing across his fingers. This power is absolute proof that his contract with the God of Shadows is still completely active in this new life. And because of it, he is fully immune to the bladed illusion curse that ruined him before. The useless dunce of the Runcandel family no longer exists. Now, the only thing left to do is face his terrifying father.
Meanwhile, back at the main estate, Khan finishes his report. Upon hearing that his 7-year-old son effortlessly beat up the older twins and might be hiding a dangerous power, the Patriarch's eyes gleam with a fierce intensity. A terrifying aura explodes from his massive body as he gives a chilling command. He orders Khan to assemble the flag bearers. Moments later, all 7 elite flag bearers of the Runcandel family and 200 heavily armored knights stand in perfect, intimidating formation. The Patriarch steps forward, his cape blowing in the wind, and orders his massive army to march on the Storm Castle. Outside the Storm Castle, the older Runcandel siblings are completely baffled. Standing in the heavy rain, the elite flag bearers wonder why they were suddenly ordered to gather. They quickly realize this massive assembly isn't about the Tona twins. It has to be about their youngest brother, Jin, the boy who shocked everyone by choosing the Patriarch's sword at his selection ceremony. Still, they wonder if that alone is enough reason for their terrifying father to come all this way. Inside the castle, a maid gently brushes 7-year-old Jin's hair as he prepares for the meeting. Jin remains perfectly calm, analyzing the situation. He knows Khan, the guardian knight, is a strict and inflexible man. Khan wouldn't have jumped to the conclusion that Jin was using magic. He would have simply reported exactly what he saw, a mysterious, unknown power. Jin deduces that his father isn't coming to punish him, but to see if this strange new power could be a valuable asset for the future and prosperity of the clan. The massive castle doors creak open. Chiron Runcandel, the Patriarch, strides into the hall with an overwhelming godlike presence. Without missing a beat, he immediately demands that the Tona twins be brought before him. Haytona and Daytona tremble as they kneel at the bottom of the stairs, looking up at their towering father. Chiron stares down at them and asks what their fault was in the altercation with Jin. Terrified, the twins desperately try to defend themselves. They cry out that it wasn't their fault and accuse Jin of hurting them with a strange power. To save their own skin, they loudly accuse their little brother of using magic, a strictly forbidden art in the Runcandel family. Instead of getting angry at Jin, Chiron's eyes narrow in disgust at the twins. "Enough," he booms, his voice echoing through the hall. He tells the trembling boys to etch his words into their hearts. They will never survive in the Runcandel family acting this pathetically. Disappointed, he orders the guards to go bring Jin. As Jin walks down the long corridor, he thinks about his father. Chiron Runcandel is the strongest man of their era, a Genesis Knight who has reached the status of a demigod. To reach that peak, Chiron lost almost all of his human emotions, leaving him obsessed only with the family's prosperity. In his past life, because Jin had no talent, he might as well have not existed to his father. But this time, Jin clenches his fists, determined to make sure no one can ever disregard him again. Jin enters the grand hall, walks confidently past his older siblings, and drops to one knee. "I greet the Patriarch," he announces clearly.
Chiron raises an eyebrow. He asks why Jin called him Patriarch instead of father. Jin smoothly replies that since over 100 clan members and elite knights are present, he concluded this must be an official visit, not a family one. The oldest sister Luna watches with interest, and even Chiron gives a small, satisfied smile. He tells Jin to call him father for now, and then asks him the exact same question he asked the twins. What wrong did your brothers commit in your altercation?
Jin looks up, his eyes glowing with fierce determination. "Revenge," he answers boldly. He explains that as a member of the ruthless Runcandel family, one must always return what they are given, whether that be grace or resentment. The older siblings are instantly impressed by the 7-year-old's cutthroat mindset, with his sister Mary flashing a wicked grin. Chiron is silent for a moment. Then he orders everyone except Jin to leave the room immediately. The crowd murmurs in awe as they file out. They know what this means. The youngest son just passed the Patriarch's test. Once the massive doors click shut, Chiron and Jin are completely alone. Chiron chuckles, clearly amused by his youngest son's fearlessness, but his tone quickly turns dark and menacing. He brings up the twins' accusation. He warns Jin that the Runcandels strictly forbid magic because it ruins a person's ability to reach the pinnacle of swordsmanship. Leaning forward, Chiron declares that if the power Jin used was truly magic, he will not let it pass lightly. Jin knows he can't hide the power of Solderet from a demigod, but instead of confessing to magic, Jin plays a brilliant move. He looks his father in the eye and raises his small hand. Instantly, a dark, swirling mass of shadow energy erupts from his palm, illuminating the dark room with an eerie glow.
Jin innocently tells his father that he isn't sure what this power is either, as it feels like neither magic nor aura. Holding the dark flames up to the towering patriarch, Jin boldly asks his father to bestow a name upon it. Chiron's stoic, emotionless face violently twitches in pure shock. His eyes widen as he stares at the swirling black energy. He doesn't need to name it, because he already knows exactly what it is. It is the legendary, forgotten power wielded by the very first founder of the Runcandel family.
Chiron's imposing figure looms over his 7-year-old son. Recognizing the dark flames, Chiron demands the truth about what Jin truly desires. Without missing a beat, Jin looks his terrifying father in the eye and boldly declares, "I want to use this power for myself." A rare, genuine smile crosses the Patriarch's face. He loves that ruthless ambition. He promises to keep a very close eye on Jin from now on. As Chiron stares at the dark aura, he realizes exactly what it is: Barasada's shadow energy. He remembers that the god of shadows, Solderet, originally made a contract with the clan's powerful founder, Lord Timar Runcandel. But since Timar passed away 1,000 years ago, Solderet had vanished. Now, the god is trying to return to the family through Jin. Chiron silently wonders if this means his youngest son is destined to become the future head of the entire clan. Breaking the silence, Jin innocently asks a question that catches the Patriarch completely off guard. Is the god Solderet stronger than you, father? Chiron's eyes widen before he lets out an amused smirk. "I don't know," he replies, "since I have never fought a god before." Jin realizes this is exactly the kind of arrogant, confident answer the strongest man on Earth would give.
Finding the boy's innocent curiosity fascinating, Chiron gently pats Jin on the head. Chiron then asks one final test question. How do you want to use that shadow energy? Jin lowers his head respectfully and answers, I want to use this power for the sake of the family. Suddenly, Chiron bursts into a booming, maniacal laugh. What an amusing lie, he shouts. He points out the absolute hypocrisy of Jin's words. The boy had just brutally beaten down his older brothers and abandoned them in a freezing storm. Yet he dares to claim he wants to use his power for the sake of the family? But Chiron isn't angry. He's incredibly entertained by his son's cunning nature. Pleased with the meeting, the Patriarch officially grants Jin the right to use his shadow energy freely. Once outside the Grand Hall, Jin lets out a heavy sigh of relief. He made it through safely. Earning the right to practice his power openly was better than he ever expected. He clenches his fist, realizing that this new life is already completely different from his miserable past. After that, Jin meets his older sister, Mary Runcandel. She brings a heavy wooden box, telling Jin it's a special present from his older sister, Mary Runcandel. Jin is immediately suspicious. His 19-year-old sister is a 6-star knight, famously known as the Mad Woman of the South due to her battle-crazed and chaotic nature. When Jin opens the box, a blinding, fiery red light fills the room. Inside sits a glowing, molten object, a phoenix's heart. Jin is completely shocked. To give such a precious, high-tier magical elixir to a 7-year-old is pure insanity. If boiled and eaten at a young age, the heart promotes massive physical growth and grants near-perfect fire resistance. Jin realizes that with this gift, he might even be able to safely summon a magical phoenix in the future. Just then, the Tona twins awkwardly peek into the room, absolutely terrified of their little brother. Smiling innocently, Jin asks them to do him just one small favor. Cut to a dark, rocky cave beneath the castle. The two bruised 9-year-old twins are miserably using shovels to dig a massive hole in the dirt. Sweating and exhausted, they complain bitterly about why they have to do manual labor, worrying they'll get in trouble if anyone finds out. But they are too scared of Jin to stop digging, reasoning that Jin will be the one taking the blame anyway. Deep beneath the storm castle, Jin walks alone down a dark, rocky tunnel. He notes with a smirk that his older brothers, the Tona twins, actually did a pretty good job digging the secret passageway he ordered them to make. Reaching a dead end, Jin holds out his hand. Finally able to use the magic he had been forced to hold back, he fires a blast of green mana, easily shattering the thick rock wall blocking his path. Before coming down here, Jin made sure to keep his promise to the twins. He told them he would give them some of the precious phoenix heart soup if they dug the hole. When the exhausted twins rushed to his room, they eagerly looked for their bowls. But Jin simply pointed to a plate holding 2 tiny teaspoons. Each spoon contained exactly 1 single drop of soup. Jin smiled innocently, telling them he promised them some soup, but he never specified exactly how much. Furious, but too terrified to argue, the twins had no choice but to swallow their tiny drops. Back in the underground cavern, the shattered rock wall reveals a massive doorway wrapped in heavy metal chains. Jin steps up to it. In his previous life, he had secretly learned the password for this door from one of his older brothers. Taking a deep breath, Jin speaks the trigger phrase. Runcandel's child is here to console Murakan. Instantly, the heavy chains rattle and the giant doors slowly creak open. A blinding light pours out, revealing the legendary Runcandel secret library. This is a massive, sacred archive containing the secret combat manuals of countless famous families, a place where entry is strictly permitted only to the elite flag bearers. As Jin steps inside the colossal room,
His eyes are drawn to the center. Standing in the middle of the library is a massive cylindrical glass tank filled with glowing blue water. Suspended inside the liquid is a muscular man. But as Jin looks closer, he notices dark reptilian scales covering the man's face and neck. He isn't human. Jin suddenly remembers the old clan legends. This must be the Black Dragon Murakan, a terrifying beast who was defeated by the Runcandel's first founder and sealed away into a deep slumber. Amazed but focused on his goal, Jin decides to ignore the sleeping legend for now. He doesn't have time to stare. He quickly searches the shelves and finds a secret martial arts tome from the famous Kungan family. Since it would be too risky to steal the physical book, Jin sits down at a desk, pulls out a pen, and begins rapidly copying the text by hand.
Suddenly, a booming voice echoes right behind him. "Hey you, what are you?" Jin drops his pen and spins around in pure shock. The giant glass tank is completely empty. The man with the scales is standing right behind him, glaring down with piercing eyes. Jin's mind races. In his past life, he had never heard of the Black Dragon Murakan ever waking up. Hoping to calm the beast, Jin respectfully bows his head and says, "Runcandel's child greets the family's guardian." But this only makes things worse. Murakan's eyes snap wide open in absolute fury. "Guardian?" he screams, his voice shaking the entire room. He throws a massive tantrum, incredibly insulted that the Runcandels would dare teach their children that he was reduced to a mere guard dog. He rants and raves, waving his arms wildly. Finally, the dragon takes a deep breath and calms down. He looks closely at the 7-year-old boy and asks a serious question. He says he only woke up from his 1,000-year sleep because he smelled something incredibly nostalgic. He asks Jin, "Why can I smell shadow energy on you?" Jin holds out his hands. With a simple thought, a dark, crackling orb of black flames bursts into his palms. He explains that his father told him this power comes from the god of shadows, Solderet. Murakan stumbles back, utterly speechless. He looks at the tiny boy in disbelief. "Are you serious? The contractor after 1,000 years? Is this little child?" Crouching down to Jin's eye level, Murakan explains that he made a very important promise with Solderet a long time ago, and now it seems the person who needs to help him keep that promise is Jin. Dark, swirling energy begins to erupt from Murakan's body. The shadows stretch and grow, forming the terrifying, massive silhouette of a gigantic black dragon right behind him. With a booming, majestic voice, he formally introduces himself. He is Murakan, Solderet's representative, his friend, and the last descendant of the first being created from shadows. He declares that, according to their 1,000-year contract, from this moment on, he will be by Jin's side. Instead of cowering in fear at the gigantic shadow dragon, Jin just looks up with a confident, fearless smile. He places a hand on his chest and boldly answers back, "Jin Runcandel. I am the 13th and the youngest child of the Runcandel family, Solderet's contractor." Back at the secret library, weeks begin to pass. Jin makes a habit of visiting the underground chamber constantly, bringing a stash of snacks with him. He quickly discovers that despite being a terrifying, legendary beast, Murakan loses his mind over sweet strawberry pies. While the dragon happily stuffs his face with pastries, Jin spends his time sitting at the desk, frantically transcribing the Kungan family's secret magic tomes. Murakan looks over the boy's shoulder and asks if he even understands the complex theories he's copying. Jin admits he only grasps about 30% of it. Murakan casually remarks that Jin definitely has potential, just like the clan's first founder, Timar. However, he bluntly states that Jin isn't as good as Timar. Jin's eyes widen and a wave of disappointment washes over him. He asks if that means he can never reach the founder's level. Seeing the boy's crushed expression, Murakan places a heavy hand on Jin's head and laughs. He explains that Jin misunderstood. Timar didn't even read these complex books because he couldn't understand them. Jin, on the other hand, is smart enough to actually study them. Murakan tells him that if he stops being so impatient and just trains hard, he will easily become as strong as Timar and could even surpass him completely. The dragon tells Jin to relax, noting that it's normal for kids his age to be lazy and take it easy. But Jin's eyes grow dark and incredibly cold. He silently reminds himself that he isn't a normal kid. He is a Runcandel. He has 12 older, ruthless siblings, a terrifying father, and a council of elders waiting for him. If he wants to destroy them all and claim his place, taking it easy is not an option. Looking back up at the dragon, Jin asks a serious question. If he were to be compared to Tamar right now, the strongest swordsman in the history of the world, how would he actually fare? Murakan looks down at the 7-year-old boy and asks if he knows the nickname of Solderet, the god of shadows. When Jin shakes his head, the dragon smiles widely. He reveals that Solderet is known as Infinity. Because the god's power has absolutely no limit, it means Jin, as his sole contractor, has no limits either. Wanting to cheer the serious kid up, Murakan offers to teach him a high-level technique called shadow energy release. He explains that since Solderet created and owns all the shadows in the world, Jin has the right to command them all. To demonstrate, dark energy erupts from Murakan's feet, violently expanding the shadows across the massive library floor. The dragon warns that the technique is incredibly dangerous if used incorrectly, so they have to start from the absolute basics. He tells Jin that his first step is simply learn how to form and move his mana, a process that usually takes a normal person 2 to 3 years of brutal practice to master. Jin's eyes twitch. 2 or 3 years is way too long. Thanks to his tragic past life, he had already spent 3 agonizing years doing nothing but practicing magic. Without a word, Jin casually holds out his hand. Instantly, a perfectly smooth, swirling sphere of blue mana forms in his palm. He looks up at the dragon and asks if they can skip the basics and just learn the technique now. Murakan's jaw completely drops. He stammers in shock, demanding to know how a 7-year-old could possibly do that. Lying through his teeth, Jin innocently claims he has just always been able to do it. Murakan shakes his head in disbelief, calling the boy an absolute once-in-a-generation prodigy. Meanwhile, far away from the storm castle, Jin's eldest sister, Luna Runcandel, stands victorious in a blood-red forest. She effortlessly holds her giant blade over the corpse of a massive, slaughtered beast. A heavily armored knight approaches, reporting that they have cleared the area and will finish their entire mission in about 4 months. Luna coldly orders her knights to take a break. But as she turns away, the terrifying, battle-hardened woman suddenly asks her knight a very out-of-character question. She wants to know what kind of things a 9-year-old boy usually likes. Despite her cold exterior, she is already thinking ahead to Jin's future birthday. Half a year after Jin meets the Black Dragon, the Tona twins finally turn 10 years old and leave the Storm Castle for good. Time continues to pass peacefully until the day of Jin's 9th birthday. While his nanny, Gilly, cheerfully brings out a strawberry cake to celebrate, the Guardian Knight Khan suddenly bursts into the room with shocking news. Someone has come to visit without any prior notice. It is none other than Jin's eldest sister, Luna Runcandel. Luna is a legendary 9-star knight and the very firstborn of the 13 siblings. Despite being the
absolute strongest of all the children, she's known as the White Whale, an aloof warrior who has zero interest in becoming the patriarch. She had completely stepped away from the family's bloody succession war, preferring to act entirely alone. Because of this, she and Jin were essentially strangers in his past life.
Jin's mind races as the imposing woman enters his room. He wonders if she somehow found out about his secret shadow magic or the dragon hiding in the basement. Noticing Jin acting incredibly tense, Luna realizes her sudden presence is intimidating. In the ruthless Runcandel family, siblings usually only visit each other to scheme, threaten, or keep each other in check. Apologizing for making him nervous, Luna asks the guards and Gilly to leave so she can speak with her youngest brother in private.
Once they are alone, Luna reveals the real reason for her visit. She warns Jin that his bold, fearless behavior during their father's last visit attracted the dangerous attention of all the other siblings. With a soft, caring expression, Luna begs Jin to step away from the family's dirty succession battle. She genuinely hopes he can just live a happy, peaceful life without getting involved in their sibling rivalry. Jin is completely taken aback. In his previous life, because he was a talentless failure, nobody saw him as competition, and Luna never bothered to warn him. But now, she is looking out for him. Grateful for her words, Jin gently holds her hand, but he firmly refuses to back down. He tells her he has absolutely no intention of sitting out of this fight. To prove his point, Jin drops a massive bombshell. He reveals that he has already survived a secret assassination attempt. Instantly, the room grows heavy. Luna's eyes glow with a terrifying purple aura of pure rage. Her protective instincts explode as she demands to know which sibling dared to try and kill her little brother inside the storm castle. Jin calmly tells her he hasn't uncovered the culprit's identity yet, but assures her that he is perfectly fine. Seeing his resolve, Luna pulls Jin into a warm hug, deeply saddened that her youngest brother is already involved in this dark, violent world. But since it is his birthday, she decides to lighten the mood and hands him a small box. Inside is a beautiful silver pendant holding a massive, glowing blue gem. She instructs him to shatter the gem if he ever faces a threat he can't handle. If he does, she swears she will drop everything and come to his rescue, no matter where he is. After thanking his sister and saying goodbye, Jin sneaks down to the underground library, bringing a slice of strawberry cake for Murakan. The moment the dragon sees the necklace around Jin's neck, he freaks out. Murakan recognizes the pendant immediately. It is an ancient, priceless artifact belonging to the legendary Demon King Orgel. Thousands of people had once risked their lives just to get their hands on it. The artifact grants the wearer massive resistance to high-level magic and heavily boosts their mana capabilities. Murakan is amazed that Jin's sister would casually hand over something so incredibly valuable. But then, the dragon casually mentions something terrifying. He tells Jin that a warrior as powerful as Luna definitely sensed Murakan's dark dragon energy hiding beneath the castle. Jin panics, terrified that his sister will report his secrets to the Patriarch. But Murakan just laughs while eating his cake. He points out that a sister who gives her little brother such a priceless artifact out of love is definitely not going to snitch on him. And the dragon is exactly right. Standing outside in the pouring rain, Luna looks back at the storm castle. She easily senses the massive, unknown energy lurking beneath the grounds. But a gentle smile crosses her face. If her little brother is secretly preparing a hidden power, she decides to pretend she doesn't know anything at all. Walking away into the storm, she silently promises to always be on Jin's side, no matter what he becomes. Meanwhile, Jin's time at the Storm Castle is coming to an end.
Before his departure, he engages in one final sparring session with the Guardian Knight, Khan. Jin charges forward, his hand glowing with intense energy, and delivers a fierce palm strike. Khan easily blocks the heavy blow with one hand, but he is deeply impressed. Khan realizes that Jin isn't just mindlessly attacking. The young boy is calculating every move and assessing his teacher's abilities. With deep respect, Khan promises to give Jin the absolute best training possible in the short time they have left.
Later that evening, Jin sits in his room, holding a burning candle flame right against his bare finger. Instead of burning his skin, the fire just feels like warm water. He smiles, realizing he has already successfully absorbed about half the power of the Phoenix Heart given to him by his sister. When Gilly enters the room to help him pack for the trip, Jin simply asks her to keep his books separate, planning to study the entire carriage ride home. Before the sun rises, Jin meets with Murakan one last time. He asks how a giant legendary dragon plans to follow him to the main estate without getting caught. Murakan confidently states he will follow completely unnoticed. He admits he has grown much weaker after sleeping for a millennium, but he reassures Jin with a smirk. Because they are bound by a contract, as Jin grows stronger and develops his magic, Murakan's lost powers will naturally return to him. Jin confronts the Black Dragon with a secret he learned in his past life. He tells Murakan that he knows the Runcandel family wasn't always just about the sword. Originally, they were a clan of magic swordsmen, and their founder, Tamar, was the strongest magic swordsman in history. Murakan nods, confirming the truth. He explains that barely anyone remembers this fact anymore. The only reason the modern Runcandels reject magic and obsess solely over swordsmanship is because of a humiliating vow the family was forced to make 1,000 years ago. Changing the subject to their escape plan, Murakan realizes that if he just leaves, the family will easily notice the giant glass tank is empty. To prevent this, the dragon decides to use ancient dragon tongue magic. He casts a powerful illusion, leaving behind a fake, perfectly identical version of himself sleeping peacefully inside the water. Murakan admits that his strength hasn't fully returned after his long slumber, making the illusion difficult to maintain, but he promises to push himself and keep it active until Jin is fully grown. Grateful, Jin pulls out a special surprise, a fresh strawberry pie and a bottle of expensive alcohol he stole while his nanny wasn't looking. Murakan's eyes widen with absolute joy. The day finally arrives, October 30th, 1790. Now exactly 10 years old, Jin steps out into the snowy courtyard. As he approaches his carriage, the horses nervously neigh and stomp their hooves, instinctively terrified by the invisible dragon lurking right beside them. Looking back at the imposing fortress, Jin reflects on everything he has accomplished. The Storm Castle was supposed to be a boring, isolated prison, but it gave him things he could have never dreamed of in his past life. He gained his terrifying father's acknowledgement, a priceless Phoenix Heart, an alliance with his strongest sister, and a legendary dragon companion. With a cold, determined gaze, Jin steps into the carriage. He is finally leaving the Storm Castle, ready to enter the most dangerous place in the world, the Runcandel family's main estate, the Garden of Swords. As the carriage travels through a heavy, blinding snowstorm, the journey to the main estate hits a sudden halt. Gilly notices the snow piling up rapidly and suggests they stop at a nearby village, warning that the harsh weather will completely block the teleportation gate. But suddenly, the horses rear up in a panic. Gilly instantly senses danger. She detects an ambush of about 20 enemies waiting in the freezing woods, including mages, warriors, and archers. Shielding Jin, she tells him to stay safely inside the carriage, fully trusting their two elite 7-star Guardian Knights, Jerome and Holtz, to handle the threat outside. However,
Jin notices something terrifyingly wrong. It is completely quiet. He realizes that under the strict rules of the Runcandel family, a guardian knight must never leave a child unattended during an attack. The fact that neither knight is securing the carriage means they are either traitors or they are completely fakes. Realizing the carriage itself might be a rigged death trap, Jin grabs Gilly and orders her to get them out immediately. Without a second of hesitation, Gilly equips a pair of lethal, three-pronged bladed claws onto her hands. She violently shatters the side of the carriage and leaps out into the freezing wind with Jin safely in her arms. Just a split second later, a massive explosion rips through the carriage, engulfing it in flames.
Landing safely in the snow, Gilly is ready to accept punishment for handling him so roughly, but Jin tells her to focus. He coldly observes that if these attackers were true assassins, they would have struck the moment he stepped out. Instead, a man steps forward from the snowy trees. He introduces himself as Murakan, the captain of a mercenary group called the Black King Squad. Confusingly, Murakan announces that they have come to rescue Jin on a request from the Runcandel family itself.
But a much bigger mystery remains. Jin and Gilly look over and see the two knights who were driving the carriage, the ones disguised as Jerome and Holtz, struggling to fight off the remaining mercenaries. If they were true 7-star knights, they would have slaughtered the mercenaries in seconds. They are undeniably fakes. Gilly steps up and demands to know who they are really working for, but the fake knight stubbornly refuses to answer a dog of Runcandel.
The mercenaries completely underestimate the polite nanny standing in front of the boy. What they don't know is that to even qualify as a nanny for the monstrous Runcandel family, one must be at least a 7-star warrior. In a blinding flash of speed, Gilly dashes forward. She brutally slashes him across the chest with her claws, sending him crashing into the snow in a fountain of blood. Jin watches calmly, noting that if someone actually wanted to assassinate a child of Runcandel, they would need to send at least 3 or 4 8-star knights to even stand a chance against Gilly. Bleeding out in the snow, Ka screams that this ambush is just a warning. He shouts that the reign of Runcandel will soon come to an end, and loudly praises the great Zippel family.
Zippel is the legendary clan of mages that rules the other half of the world, fiercely pursuing the pinnacle of magic just as Runcandel pursues the sword. 1,000 years ago, it was the Zippel family who forced the humiliating oath upon the Runcandels, completely sealing away their magical abilities and making them sworn enemies for a millennium. Hearing this, Jin realizes that this pathetic ambush wasn't actually orchestrated by the main Zippel family. It was just the work of a foolish, fanatical follower. He casually tells Gilly to toss the captain aside, deeming him not even worth interrogating. Jin's eyes glow with a chilling blue light. He knows that deceiving a 7-star warrior's eyes with a disguise is incredibly difficult. He suspects a very specific, cunning sibling is pulling the strings behind this elaborate trap. Staring at the fake knights, the 10-year-old boy gives his nanny a cold, ruthless command. Let's kill one. Cut an arm off the other. Then bring him to me. Following Jin's cold command, Gilly immediately springs into action. She moves with terrifying speed, striking down one of the fake knights in a spray of snow and blood. The second fake knight desperately swings his sword, but he is completely outmatched by a true 7-star warrior. Gilly effortlessly dodges his clumsy strike and violently slams him face first into the frozen ground. Bleeding in the snow, the fake knight curses them, screaming that the Runcandel's reign will soon come to a bitter end. Hearing this, Jin casually turns to Murakan, the injured mercenary captain, and agrees. Jin states that he doesn't want the reign of the Runcandel family to continue either. Instead, he wants the reign of Jin Runcandel to begin. Murakan stares at the 10-year-old boy in absolute awe.
He realizes these aren't just the arrogant ramblings of a sheltered child. The boy radiates the terrifying, undeniable presence of a true king. Completely intimidated, Murakan strictly orders his surviving men to watch their mouths and behave as they escort the young master to the nearest village. Leaving the battered fake knights behind in the snow, Jin and his party head down the trail. As they walk, Gilly keeps her head down, deeply apologizing for failing to notice the trap and putting Jin in danger. Jin looks at his nanny, his mind flashing back to his miserable previous life. Back then, when he was banished as a useless failure, Gilly had been banished right alongside him. Even at his lowest point, she had bowed her head and apologized for not serving him better.
Jin refuses to let her carry that heavy guilt in this new life. He stops, looks her right in the eye, and firmly orders her to never blame herself for such trivial things again. He reminds her that she is his one and only guardian knight right now, and she needs to stand tall. Deeply moved by the young boy's mature and caring words, Gilly wipes away a tear, her loyalty to the young master burning stronger than ever.
They finally reach a warm village inn and book 2 rooms to rest. Safely inside his room, Jin starts piecing the ambush puzzle together. He knows ordinary magic cannot perfectly replicate the appearance of elite 7-star knights well enough to fool Gilly. He suspects a specific criminal from his past life, a man named Bubari Gaston, a notorious transformation sorcerer capable of perfect physical illusions, who eventually plunges the world into chaos. Jin briefly considers tracking the sorcerer down to use him as a future ally, but quickly changes his mind. Anyone who dares to point a sword at him doesn't get a second chance.
Exhausted from the long day, Jin falls onto his bed while Gilly stands guard in the hallway outside. But just as he drifts off to sleep, a loud, obnoxious meowing wakes him up. Jin groggily looks at his window and spots a small black cat tapping on the glass. Suddenly, the shadows swirl around the animal, and the cat transforms right back into Murakan. The loud noise instantly triggers Gilly. The bedroom door violently bursts open. Radiating a terrifying, glowing blue aura, Gilly leaps into the room with her lethal bladed claws drawn. Before Murakan can even process what is happening, the furious nanny brutally pins the legendary dragon to the floor, screaming that she will rip him to 1,000 pieces for daring to target the young master. Completely pinned down and terrified by the glaring assassin above him, Murakan realizes exactly who she is. Remembering all the delicious snacks Jin had brought him in the library, the ancient dragon flashes a charming, goofy smile and happily greets her as Strawberry Pie. Gilly freezes, staring down at the strange intruder with utter disgust and confusion. Watching the absolute disaster unfold from his bed, Jin just slaps his forehead, realizing they are completely screwed. Jin quickly jumps in before his furious nanny can slice up a legendary being. He gestures to the man pinned under her claws and calmly introduces him as the Runcandel family's guardian, the Black Dragon Murakan. All the blood drains from Gilly's face. Horrified that she just attacked a sacred figure, she drops to her knees and bows her head to the floor, desperately begging for forgiveness. But Murakan just bursts into a warm, booming laugh. He tells his precious Strawberry Pie not to worry and gladly forgives him. He smoothly explains that he calls her that because she is wonderful, beautiful, and makes the absolute perfect strawberry pies. Gilly's eyes widen as the realization hits her. The young master wasn't the one eating all those desserts every day. It was this giant dragon. Once things calm down, Jin sits Gilly on the bed and sincerely apologizes for lying to her.
He finally reveals everything: his hidden magic, his contract with the god of shadows, and his alliance with the dragon. Instead of being upset or angry, Gilly clenches her fists with pure joy. Tears of happiness fill her eyes as she realizes her young master is incredibly talented. Jin asks her to keep Murakan's awakening and their relationship an absolute secret from the rest of the family, which she readily agrees to. Though, as she looks at the massive hole Murakan made in the wall when he tripped, she silently wonders if they can truly trust this goofy dragon. The next morning, the mercenary Captain Mareka safely escorts Jin's group to the middle teleportation gate. Before parting ways, Jin casually asks Mareka a personal question. He knows Mareka used to serve the McLaurin family, Gilly's own family, and asks why a man with such excellent talent left to become a lowly mercenary. Mareka's face darkens, and he avoids the question, stating it isn't important enough to talk about. Respecting his silence, Jin bids him a safe journey. Inside the gate's premium waiting room, Gilly whispers her anxieties to Jin. Murakan has transformed back into a small black cat and is resting on Jin's lap. Gilly is terrified that if someone discovers Jin is using forbidden shadow energy to mask the dragon's presence, the family will execute him. But Jin confidently smiles, assuring her that his magic is completely undetectable. Just then, the heavy doors open, and a new group enters the VIP lounge. Jin instantly recognizes the emblem on their cloaks, a golden dragon. It is the Zippel family, the most powerful mages in the world, and the Runcandel's sworn mortal enemies. Leading them is a young, white-haired boy exactly Jin's age. Jin's eyes narrow. He recognizes this boy from his past life. It is Veridin Zippel, a genius magician and the future heir to the entire Zippel clan. In his previous life, Veridin was a legendary icon whose magical skills were so far beyond Jin's reach that he felt like an unreachable god. But now, seeing this god as a 10-year-old kid his own age, Jin finds the situation incredibly amusing. Veridin's bodyguards spot the Runcandel crest on Jin's coat and immediately draw their swords in the waiting room. But Veridin completely ignores the fierce family rivalry. His eyes light up when he sees the little black cat on Jin's lap, and he casually walks over to pet it. But Murakan is not a pet. With a vicious hiss, the dragon cat violently swipes his claws, deeply slashing Veridin's hand and drawing blood. The Zippel guards shout in panic, ready to attack. However, Veridin just smiles and holds up his bleeding hand, calmly ordering his men to stand down. He scolds them, saying it is incredibly stupid to draw swords in front of a Runcandel over a simple cat scratch. Turning back to Jin, Veridin formally introduces himself and politely apologizes for his guard's rude behavior. Unfazed by the famous heir, Jin coldly warns him that if his guards ever act up like that again, he might just cut their fingers off. Instead of getting angry, Veridin bursts into laughter, thinking it's a brilliant joke. Eager to befriend this calm and intimidating Runcandel boy, Veridin smiles and asks if there is anything he can do for him while they wait. Jin stares dead into the eyes of the Zippel heir and bluntly replies, "I'd like you to please just stay quiet and not disturb my rest." Veridin's eyes sparkle with overwhelming excitement. Most people cower in fear at his family name, but this boy doesn't care at all. Veridin realizes that this kid is going to grow up to be an absolutely amazing, lifelong rival. He thinks to himself that if they weren't born into enemy families, he would love to be best friends. A moment later, the teleportation gate activates with a blinding blue light. As the magic surrounds them, Veridin cheerfully waves, shouting that it was nice to meet him and hoping they see each other again. Annoyed by the weirdly enthusiastic rival, Jin just sighs, silently hoping they never cross paths again. The bright light flashes, and they are whisked across the world. When the teleportation ends, Jin steps out into the crisp, open air. A head housekeeper named Pedro bows respectfully to greet him. Jin looks up, his breath taken away by the sight of a colossal, majestic fortress surrounded by countless giant swords planted into the earth. After a long, dangerous journey, the 10-year-old boy has finally arrived at the Runcandel main estate, the Garden of Swords. The Garden of Swords is a breathtaking, sacred site. Giant, legendary blades belonging to the greatest Runcandel heroes stick out of the lush green earth. It is the ultimate symbol of the clan's dreams and honor. Walking up the path, Jin remembers how he used to desperately dream of having his own sword buried here after his death. But as he looks at the towering main estate, his mindset changes. He is no longer the weak, talentless failure of his past. He promises himself that this time his hard work will conquer this ruthless place and give him a life worth living. At the top of the grand castle steps, his intimidating mother, Rosa Runcandel, known as the Black Panther, stands waiting alongside his father, Chiron. Rosa's sharp eyes immediately spot the little black cat perched comfortably on Jin's shoulder. She asks if the boy picked up a stray.
Jin looks his father right in the eye and boldly declares that he didn't just pick it up, he took it in. Chiron is highly amused by the 10-year-old's confident attitude and asks for the pet's name. Without hesitating, Jin drops a bombshell, introducing the cat as Butterfly Runcandel. The surrounding siblings and guards are absolutely outraged. Giving the sacred, feared family name to a mere beast is considered an ultimate insult. Rosa glares fiercely at Gilly, furious that the nanny allowed such a disrespectful thing. But Chiron raises his hand, silencing the crowd angrily, and asks Jin to explain himself.
Jin calmly states that attaching the family name means he takes full, absolute responsibility for the creature. Because the cat is the very first life he has taken under his wing, he believes the name must carry heavy weight. Chiron chuckles, warning Jin that the Runcandel name is a heavy burden, and notes that the boy certainly has a talent for making enemies, gesturing to his older siblings who are glaring daggers at him. Jin simply smirks back, declaring that if anyone dares to insult Butterfly, he will gladly pay them back. He adds that he also has a talent for killing his enemies. Chiron laughs a wicked, booming laugh, warning the other children to keep their guard up around their cheeky youngest brother. 4 years pass in a flash. It is now the early summer of 1794. Jin has grown into a sharp 14-year-old, officially holding the title of a 2-star knight and a low-rank cadet in the family's brutal training program. After wrapping up an exhausting morning training session, Jin decides to skip the main dining hall just to avoid dealing with his intimidating mother's intense staring contests. Instead, he sits outside to eat his lunch in peace. Soon, a cheerful blonde-haired 13-year-old cadet named Bellup Schmitz hurries over to him. Bellup is a commoner in the basic rank class, and he excitedly thanks Jin for always sharing his meat portions with him.
Looking at the innocent, smiling boy, Jin's mind flashes back to his previous life. In that timeline, Bellup was a tragic figure. He was destined to fall behind in his training and be expelled from the Runcandels. After being cast out, Bellup was taken in by a rival Swordmaster, turned into a merciless, bloodthirsty royal guard for a foreign empire, and eventually committed suicide. Knowing this incredibly dark future, Jin decides right then and there to completely change the boy's fate. He gently scolds Bellup for loudly putting himself down and orders the boy to stand tall and carry himself with confidence. When Bellup nervously points out his terrible grades and lack of stars, Jin firmly assures him that he is still better than any normal teenager in the outside world. Jin promises to personally take care of him and guarantees that Bellup will never get expelled. Jin silently vows to protect the boy's pure heart,
firmly believing that one lifetime of misfortune is more than enough for anyone. Leaving a stunned but grateful Belop behind, Jin walks across the courtyard, assessing his own incredible growth. Thanks to his tireless efforts, his shadow energy and swordsmanship have both reached the 2-star level, while his secret mana capabilities are already at a staggering 4 stars. At this perfect pace, he expects his sword skills to break into the 3-star realm in just 2 years.
For his afternoon session, Jin meets up with his eldest sister, Luna. Standing in a quiet, breezy courtyard, Luna draws her massive, heavy sword. She tells him that today's training will physically be exactly the same as yesterday's, but the mental challenge will be completely different. Staring intensely at her little brother, Luna commands Jin to look at the world using his mind's eye. Jin takes a deep breath and prepares his stance, ready to survive a bizarre, high-level training method that he had never even heard of in his past life.
During a private training session, Luna instructs Jin to close his eyes. She tells him that to truly hone the blade, he must learn to look with his mind's eye, warning him not to open his eyes no matter what happens. Jin stands perfectly still, focusing his senses. Internally, he knows this is an absurd request. The mind's eye is a mystical realm that only elite knights above the 7-star rank can reach. On top of that, a regular mind's eye requires a knight to scatter their aura, something Jin can't freely do during this training. Despite the impossible task for a newly promoted 2-star knight, Jin decides to completely trust his eldest sister. He remains perfectly still, focusing intensely on his surroundings. Watching him, Luna is incredibly impressed. She notes that his focus and memory retention are far beyond any normal 2-star knight. She smiles warmly, confident that with his terrifying potential, he will naturally understand this high-level concept in just a few years.
Later, at the main cadet training grounds, the atmosphere is incredibly tense. Instructor Garen approaches Jin with exciting news. Lady Rosa, Jin's terrifying mother, has issued a special challenge. If Jin can defeat 10 of the most outstanding upper-rank cadets today, he will be instantly promoted to the intermediate rank training group by next year. Looking around, Jin notices his friend, the young commoner Belop, shivering with anxiety in the ranks. Jin silently wishes the boy had more confidence, but pushes the thought aside to focus on his own test. The instructor announces the rules. The cadets will spar against each other, and the 10 best victors will earn the right to face the young master one by one. The battles commence, and Jin steps up to the challenge. With swift, calculated movements, Jin effortlessly takes down opponent after opponent. He secures 8 consecutive victories, noting that these cadets didn't earn their ranks for nothing. He just needs 2 more wins to pass his mother's test. His 9th opponent steps forward. It is Mesa Milcano, an elite basic rank cadet who is guaranteed to become a full Guardian Knight upon graduation. Mesa glares at Jin, fiercely determined to beat the young master no matter what. The moment the match starts, Mesa charges. She unleashes a flurry of fast, aggressive strikes. Jin easily parries her attacks, realizing she has grown much stronger. But Jin has a slight problem. If he exhausts his stamina fighting Mesa head-on, his 10th and final match will be incredibly difficult. He needs a strategy. Instead of using his diverse, high-level techniques, Jin begins to only use basic, simple attacks. Frustrated, Mesa thinks Jin is disrespecting her and pushes her assault even harder. Their wooden swords clash violently over and over again. Suddenly, with a loud crack, Misa's heavy wooden sword completely snaps in half.
Misa stares at her broken weapon in pure shock. She realizes what just happened. During every single one of their high-speed clashes, Jin hadn't just been blocking. He had been striking her sword in the exact same microscopic spot with terrifying accuracy and tenacity.
Overwhelmed by his inhuman precision, she drops her broken sword and bows in defeat. Jin smiles. Everything went exactly according to his plan. By displaying such an overwhelming surgical victory against one of their best fighters, he created a terrifying illusion. He made the remaining cadets believe that fighting him head-on was absolutely hopeless. With their spirits completely crushed, Jin easily secures his 10th and final victory. Instructor Garen proudly congratulates the young master on his flawless success, confirming his promotion to the intermediate class. With 10 minutes left before lunch, the instructor begins to wrap up the session. But Jin isn't finished. He stops the instructor and declares that he has one more person he wants to face. Turning toward the crowd of tired cadets, Jin takes a deep breath and screams at the top of his lungs, "Belop Schmitz!" The 13-year-old commoner flinches in pure terror. Pointing a trembling finger at himself, Jin fiercely commands him to step forward and spar. As the terrified boy hesitates, Jin raises his wooden sword, aiming it right at Belop's face. With a chilling, ruthless glare, Jin yells that Belop cannot survive in the Runcandel family acting so cowardly. "Step forward!" Jin roars. "Step forward and fight me! I'll destroy you!" The entire courtyard falls dead silent. Standing before the terrified 13-year-old commoner, Jin coldly points his wooden sword at Belop. Trembling with fear, Belop wonders why the young master is targeting him. Jin states that even though he is completely exhausted from fighting 10 people and Belop is completely fresh, Jin is still much stronger. Without giving the boy another second to think, Jin charges forward. He unleashes a relentless barrage of heavy, aggressive strikes. Panic-stricken, Belop frantically raises his wooden sword to defend himself. Their blades clash violently. As Jin pushes the boy back, he realizes something impressive. Belop's defensive blocking is actually incredibly solid. Still, Jin shows no mercy. With a powerful sweep, Jin breaks through Belop's guard and knocks him hard to the stone floor. Belop groans in pain, assuming the spar is over. But Jin's eyes remain dark and ruthless. He points his sword right at the fallen boy's throat and asks why he stopped. Jin coldly tells him that this isn't a mere spar. This is a fight. "I could have killed you just then," Jin warns. "Get up. I will only be merciful once." Pushed to his absolute breaking point and feeling completely humiliated, something inside the timid boy finally snaps. Belop grits his teeth, and suddenly, a blinding golden light erupts from his wooden sword. The surrounding cadets gasp in pure shock. Aura! Belop Schmitz, the lowest-ranking commoner who everyone thought was a weak failure, knows how to use aura. Instructor Garen panics, instantly stepping forward to stop the fight before the young master gets hurt. But as he watches Jin's perfectly calm stance, Garen realizes this was Jin's plan all along. Garen stops the other cadets and strictly orders them to take what they are seeing to their graves. Seeing the golden light, Jin smirks and tells Belop not to hold back. Furious, Belop screams, asking why Jin is toying with him, and charges forward with all his might. He swings his aura-infused blade in a massive, devastating arc. Jin meets the strike head-on. As their swords collide, the sheer force of Belop's aura pushes Jin back. Jin smiles internally, amazed by the boy's hidden, raw power. He remembers the truth from his past life. Belop wasn't weak at all. He was an absolute defensive genius. During every single training session, Belop would instantly figure out his opponent's skills and strategies. He was more than capable of winning, but because he was too pure and kind-hearted to hurt anyone, he would perfectly match their level and intentionally let them win. But against Jin, that fake kindness won't work.
In a blinding flash of speed, Jin effortlessly deflects the heavy aura strike, slips past Bellup's guard, and violently disarms him. Bellup's wooden sword goes flying into the air as the boy collapses to his knees, coughing and completely defeated.
Standing over him, Jin drops his ruthless villain facade. His voice softens as he asks Bellup why he enjoys toying with people. Bellup looks up, completely confused, insisting he doesn't. Jin explains that holding back and intentionally losing out of pity actually insults and hurts his opponents more than he realizes. Jin kneels down to eye level and looks at the exhausted boy. He tells Bellup that he knows he is a gentle soul, but in the ruthless world of the Runcandels, he can't survive this hell with kindness alone. Placing a reassuring hand on Bellup's shoulder, Jin says, "Caring for others is something you can only do after you have become strong."
With genuine care in his eyes, Jin asks Bellup to stop holding back. He asks him to become truly strong so that he can protect that pure kindness and use his strength to protect Jin and everyone else. Finally, Jin gives a warm smile and apologizes for putting him through something so harsh. Tears well up in Bellup's eyes. The young master hadn't called him out to bully him. He did it to save him from his own self-destructive pity. Just then, the maids arrive with the large lunch carts, completely oblivious to the intense emotional breakthrough that just happened. Wiping his tears away, Bellup stands up. With a bright, confident smile that he has never shown before, the boy cheerfully tells Jin to sit down and rest, offering to personally serve the young master his meal. Deep in the night, under the cover of darkness, the guardian knight Khan gives a full report to the Patriarch. He details everything about the intense fight between Jin and the young commoner, Bellup. Hearing how his youngest son chose to protect and uplift a weak cadet instead of crushing him, Chiron Runcandel tilts his head back and lets out a booming, echoing laugh. He realizes exactly what Jin's conviction is. The boy intends to embrace the weak while ruling over the strong by force. Intrigued, the terrifying father decides to put this conviction to the ultimate test. He orders Khan to prepare Jin's very first official mission. A year passes, bringing the story to the freezing winter of January 1975. Jin is now 15 years old and has officially been recognized as a formidable 3-star knight. As the cadets enter their first school holiday, they prepare to advance to the intermediate rank class. This promotion comes with a massive milestone. They will no longer be using wooden practice weapons. It is time for them to wield real, lethal steel. While the other cadets eagerly order custom-fitted blades, Jin heads to the family armory to find a suitable sword for himself. But waiting for him in the armory is his eldest sister, Luna. With a playful smile, she announces that she will be the one choosing his weapon. She pulls out a colossal, heavy axe sword called Vale's Slaughter. Jin sweats nervously, staring at the massive chunk of iron and thinking it is way too huge for him. Seeing his panicked face, Luna giggles and admits she was just joking around. Her expression turns serious as she leads him to a display case and presents her actual choice. It is a stunning, beautifully crafted silver longsword. Jin's eyes widen in absolute awe. Luna explains that since Jin chose the Patriarch's sword Barasada at his childhood selection ceremony, this weapon will suit him perfectly. It is Bradamante, the legendary brother sword to Barasada, originally wielded by the very first Patriarch. Internally, Jin is overjoyed. He knows a secret from his past life. Both Barasada and Bradamante are the absolute best swords in existence for channeling shadow energy. If Jin had asked for this priceless weapon himself, his jealous siblings would have fiercely objected. But because the untouchable Luna gifted it to him, no one will dare say a word. Noticing Jin acting a bit stiff, Luna frowns playfully.
She steps forward, wraps her arms around her little brother, and pulls him into a tight, warm hug. She softly tells him to etch one thing into his heart. While the rest of their siblings are busy trying to brutally trample each other, she will always love him unconditionally. She promises that he never has to lead a lonely life in this dark family.
Later, Jin excitedly shows off Bradamante to Murakan in the secret underground library, but the Black Dragon just scoffs and tells the kid to sheath it. Murakan explains that legendary swords like Bradamante cannot be used carelessly. To properly awaken the blade's true power, Jin must fuse it with shadow energy. However, Jin's shadow magic is currently only at a 2-star level. Murakan strictly warns him that he needs a bare minimum of 3 stars just to safely hold it. But to truly use the sword without holding back, he must reach the 5-star level in shadow energy.
Stubborn and confident, Jin casually replies that he will just reach the 5-star level in a single year. Murakan furiously grabs Jin by the head, yelling that such a feat is absolutely impossible, even if the boy ate shadow energy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Their bickering is suddenly interrupted by Gilly bursting into the room. She urgently tells Jin that Instructor Garen is looking for him to brief him on his very first mission map. Jin is surprised. Official missions are strictly reserved for intermediate ranks and above, and his advancement was only just confirmed.
Arriving at the strategy room, Jin meets with Garan and reviews the mission details. He and 9 other cadets are being sent on a search mission to the southern border of the Jin Kingdom. Jin instantly recognizes the extreme danger of this location. The area is dangerously close to hostile beastmen territory, specifically the base of the vicious White Wolf tribe. It is a highly difficult, lethal assignment, far too dangerous for a squad of newly promoted cadets. Looking closer at the team roster, Jin notices something even more suspicious. His squad is entirely made up of cadets with wildly fluctuating low to intermediate grades, including his kind-hearted friend, Bellup.
Everything clicks into place. This isn't a normal mission. It is a deliberate, highly calculated setup. Jin realizes that his father caught wind of his fight with Bellup and specifically engineered this dangerous scenario to test him. Chiron wants to see if Jin can actually protect his weak teammates while surviving a lethal threat. Standing over the map, Jin's eyes glow with a chilling blue determination. He grips the table, fully accepting the challenge. If his father wants a test, Jin is ready to show him that his conviction is rock solid.